Hello, and welcome to the practice of letting go. Authors, myself, William Frank Diedrich, John Bailey, and Michael A. Limauro. This is podcast number 5, and our title is practicing. What did I say? Oh, the practice of, or letting go of the resistance to change. I got it now. Sorry about that. Okay, letting go of the resistance to change. So let's get this conversation going. Who wants to start?
Can I start with the obvious? You have to identify a change that you want to experience in your life. You know, I find that a lot of people, when I ask the question, they express their discontent, but they're not as good at identifying the change that they're looking for.
Okay. So they know what they don't want, but they don't know
Mhm.
what they do want.
Exactly.
I
Okay.
think I might step back even a little before that, and that I think people need to know who they are and what they are. Uh, I don't think people know themselves real well, and so change can be uh, externally imposed or it could be internally generated. And if I know who I am, I know whether the change fits me in my profile, or is it something that I need to just disregard. Some change is forced and you have no option. And sometimes you do. I think asking yourself or finishing the sentence, I want, is this a change that I want? Is it a change I don't want? And the second stem statement to that is I choose. I choose to make this change, or I choose to avoid this change. But I need to know who I am and what I am to see whether that fits. And the context can obviously change, whether it's my job, my personal life, a relationship, a commitment. All those things impact it.
I agree with that. The thing I would add, though, is that that's a deep question, right? Who I am. It's a big
Mhm.
question. Why am I here? I like that to ask those two questions. And I think that the resistance that I hear from people is, well, I don't know. And so I try to break it down as, because that's a big question. Well, who do you think you are? I mean, start somewhere, right? In other words, how would you identify yourself if to a stranger that you just met? That's a good place to start. Well, I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. Whatever it is that you are, because as a coach, as somebody who's trying to help people through a process of change, I don't care what comes out of your mouth. At least it lets me know where your thought process is. And I can try to create a more incremental step, right?
Mhm.
And so if you identify yourself as a teacher and you're contemplating a change in occupation to be a doctor, that's gonna influence the conversation we're gonna have.
Sure. Yeah. I think it can be helpful. A lot of times change is needed because something isn't working out very well. A relationship, somebody's career, uh, it could be personal or work relationship. It can be a health thing. Things aren't working out. So actually, there's a change that's needed. So a question that can be helpful is, in this current situation with your current behavior, who are you being?
Mhm.
Who is the person that you're being right now? And is that who you want to be?
One of the examples that I often use in conversations like this, and I'll get the research wrong, but it'll make the point.
Mhm.
10 people who have had open heart surgery. How many of those people, right, who on doctor's orders to save their own life actually make changes and a meaningful change in their lifestyle? It's a surprisingly small number, right? When you understand that, right, we understand the obstacle to change. the resistance to change. This is a life-saving measure. And for some reason, your resistance to making lifestyle changes to save or extend your own life are difficult. That's quite a riddle.
Sometimes people, there's not a whole lot of choice. I met a guy in a training session I was doing. He worked in a factory on nights, and he had heart problems and surgery. And I said, "So what changes did you make following that?" He said, "Well, I no longer order 5 roast beef sandwiches every night." He was a
That's a
big
step.
Arby's fan.
Yeah.
He would get whatever the deal was back then, 5 for $5 or something. He would get them every night because eating was one way to get rid of the boredom. So he stopped doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, we talk a lot about willpower, but won't power is often more necessary than willpower.
Sure.
Can I stop doing something that's getting in the way of me doing something better?
You know that I was thinking the other night, kind of in light of the coaching I'm doing with this one young man in his career, and change, our resistance to change can be um, based on a variety of things. It could be I lack self-confidence. I'm not sure I can make that change and work through it. I might have fear. Uh, there's this unknown aspect to it. I don't know what may happen as a result of this change. So I'm fearful about doing that. I might be controlled by commitments. Uh, I could be sitting here saying, I'd love to change my life. I want to be a dancer on Broadway, but I have a wife and kids, so I'll keep working at the grocery store, because my commitments say you can't make that change right now. It's unrealistic. So there's a variety of things that can inhibit me from wanting to make a change, and they each have a certain degree of legitimacy and must be considered when that change is ahead of me. If it's a change or die, like the health situation, then I better make some changes. It's not really negotiable. I mean, it is negotiable. I could choose to die.
Yeah,
And the majority do
Yeah,
based on
happens a lot. Yeah.
but sometimes there's changes just uh, if I'm a disorganized person, then I need to change if this disorganization is causing me to fail in fulfilling commitments or failing to perform in my work or whatever. Um, I had, I'll give you an example of my own life. By nature, I'm very altruistic, and I tended to always focus on people, but any strength taken to excess becomes a weakness. And what I lacked uh, by being so altruistic and focusing on people, I failed in some administrative tasks because I just found no pleasure or joy in doing data collection and compiling reports and things like that. I wanted to be with my people. I wanted to be by their sides, encouraging, working with them, what have you. And that altruism became a weakness. So the weakness had to be overcome to make the change to balance my performance between the different aspects of taking care of people and taking care of the administrative aspects of my job. And I resisted it because it wasn't really in my nature to go that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, makes sense. I think what we have to do for ourselves and others is help ourselves and others get off of should. I should change. I should eat less sugar. I should um, not smoke. I should exercise more. I should get out on the floor and visit my people instead of being stuck in my office. I should do this, but I'm not doing it. So then the first question for me becomes, are you willing? Are you willing to do it? And to ask that question, and if emotionally in your body you're feeling, nah, I don't really want to do it, well, then you don't want change. and you're going to have to reevaluate, because you have to become willing first before you can have the will to make a change.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
wife used to have a book on a shelf, and it was entitled "Would've, Could've, Should've."
it's
Right.
a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
just piggybacking off what you said, John, you used the word that I think is really key. It's realistic, right? So we have to pick something that's realistic. And because if it's out of reach, we make the calculation that I don't have the time or energy to get there, so I'd rather not even take the first step. So it's got to be realistic. This idea of willingness. So even though it's realistic, it doesn't mean that I'm willing. And this is what I like about John moving from want to choose, right? I want to choose. There has to
Mhm.
be a level of commitment. And then once you have a realistic goal and a commitment to achieve that goal, you still have to take a look at your other priorities in life, as John was saying, right? You have to be mindful of your responsibilities. And where does this new commitment fit into all of your other priorities? Because if you don't put it in an appropriate place, there just won't be time on your calendar blocked out for you to take the actions necessary to achieve that goal.
I like that side by side thing of the difference between wanting and choosing.
Mhm.
Because many people are frustrated, I think, and I've been there myself, where I want something, but am I actually choosing it? You can say I want a relationship with another person that is a committed relationship, but am I choosing to do that in terms of the way I act, the things that I do, or I want to lose weight? Am I choosing to lose weight? That's a whole different thing. And then even something like more prosperity. I want more prosperity, but are you choosing it? Because sometimes we just want to be wanting. It's like we're in that place of wanting and it's almost like we're addicted to wanting. So we spend years maybe in this place of wanting something that subconsciously maybe we don't think we can have, but we're used to wanting. And so we just play that game with ourselves and we never get anywhere.
And that's where prioritization comes in. We have an unlimited number of wants. And so it's hard to overcome this hurdle of where do I begin? So if you can prioritize those wants and determine that I'm going to focus on this want versus all of the other ones that are possible, it's
Mhm.
easier for it to seem realistic. Otherwise, we're in a constant state of wanting. And the other thing that I would say, listening to you both, it reminds me of something one of my mentors told me, that environment is more powerful than will. So we talk about willpower, willingness, through in won't power, right? But we have to recognize that our environment is a bigger factor. We are very influenced as human beings by the company that we keep. And if we have naysayers, right, around us, constantly telling us why we can't or why we shouldn't, we're not going to find the energy to get it done. So we have to be very mindful of associating with people that perhaps have accomplished the goal that we're pursuing, or at least are pursuing it with us, so that energy is directed towards a goal without any kind of counter energy working against us.
I think there's a plus in that, Mike, having those people around. There's people who have willpower um, on a particular change. It could be a personal goal they've set or an imposed upon change in their life. But either way, um, they may have the willpower to tackle it. But when they hit something that gets in the way, it could be a conflicting priority. It could be uh, some demand that's greater than your resources to fulfill. Whatever it might be, you hit that roadblock, and some people don't have the creativity uh, to navigate that. And if you have the right people around you, you know, there's great wisdom in a multitude of counselors, it says in Proverbs. And sometimes I need other people to help me creatively look at how do I navigate something so that I can still pursue the goal. It's not necessarily, I don't look at it as someone and say that's a weakness you have. It just may be something that you're holding up the diamond and you're not seeing all the facets, and other people have perspectives that can enlighten you and help guide you. So I think you're right about that. And if you got negative people around you, then my advice is get away from them.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of practicality in what you said too, John. I believe in taking baby steps because there's motivation and keeping score because there's motivation in accomplishing a tiny step towards your ultimate goal. And so, if you come across an obstacle, if you reach too far and you bang into that obstacle, as you say, and you don't have the tools to overcome, it's hard to come back because it feels like failure, right? Oh, I have to retreat and come back at it. But if from the very beginning you structure it as baby steps, very achievable, and you're measuring it so that you score win, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not gonna eat 5 roast beef sandwiches tonight. I'm gonna go for 4, maybe 4.5. Right?
Yeah.
and then you can feel good about the small little progress you've made, and you're building momentum and confidence as you go.
I think, oh, go ahead, John.
I have a friend who's in one of the many weight loss programs that are out there. But one of the things they would do is when they would hit a goal, they would go to the grocery store and hold like a 5-pound bag of sugar and say, I lost that. And pretty soon you see stacking bags of sugar in the aisleway of a grocery store to say, I've lost, these 5 bags, these 10 bags of sugar. But I like the baby step idea. It's kind of like the chaos theory, a small change can have big impact.
Mm-hmm.
Make a step, make that alteration, and then snowball that into the next step.
I think what you two guys are talking about is very true. At the same time, a negative or somebody telling you that you can't do something can also be a motivator to do it.
Yeah.
When I was young, I wanted to go away to college, and my parents did not want me to go. But I had a girlfriend and her mom who told me what a great thing it would be for me if I went away to college. And I thought about it, and this light went on in my head that, yeah, I would like to do that. So I told my parents that I wanted to go away to college, and they were both totally against the idea. And I remember my father saying to me, "You'll never make it through school without having to ask me for money." Now he was trying to discourage me, or he was a brilliant psychologist, because I made it through college and I never asked him for any money. And I went away to college. So that was a motivator. And when I was writing my first book, I told this one guy, yeah, I'm writing a book. And he looked at me and he said, "Isn't everybody?"
Oh.
And that really ticked me off. I said, "No, I'm actually writing one. I'm not just wanting to write one." But I use that as a motivator to get because the first book took like 6 or 7 years. So I stuck with it.
Yeah, and I think it's not always obvious that the achievement of a goal is its own reward. And so, creating a reward. So it's wonderful to have a goal established, but can you associate a reward, right, with that? And sometimes the reward is proving someone else wrong.
There you go. And I
Yeah.
have to admit, when I was 18 years old, I liked to prove my father wrong.
Yeah, fathers and sons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm,
I think something that plays into this, it doesn't get discussed a whole lot, but I used to spend a lot of time with a friend locally here learning uh, how to use temperaments to help people, to coach people.
sure.
Because some temperaments would be inclined that if you tell me I can't do it, That's all I need to know to do it. And then there's others that you could say that and they would totally be deflated by it
Mhm.
and say, why bother? But temperament has, uh, even though it's kind of ancient in its origins, I think has some validity in these sorts of circumstances, especially in regards to change. That some temperaments um, will be more aggressive, more offensive in their approach, and there will be others that will hesitate, back off, maybe even defensive,
Sure.
and resist. Uh, so I think that's again kind of going back to the knowing who you are, how you're wired, and understand that. And sometimes you need that other person. I find that in coaching that I'm sometimes just reflecting back on their statements about themselves to where they're saying, oh, wow, maybe I am a little bit fearful, or maybe I'm overly anxious about this, or whatever it might be. I don't have to tell them. It becomes, uh, but they wouldn't have thought about it unless I had had the conversation with them.
That's good. I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question. We've all coached people. What if you have someone, let's say they're in a workplace and they their people skills are not very good, but they think that they are good at it. They think they're great motivators, but actually they tend to be very critical and not really able to read the temperament of other people around them. Uh, they just but they have this idea of themselves that um, they're really good, but they're not actually, and you can see that. So how do you help that person to first see themselves a little differently, how other people see them, and then to get on a road to some kind of change? Or are they hopeless?
I think Mike brought it up the other day in a conversation we had using the 360 feedback.
Yeah,
I think that's a great way to highlight those aspects of someone that they're not aware of, and
Yeah,
being with the right person or coach to help them figure out, okay, what do we do with this? You know,
yeah.
just do we need to make?
I've I've done that quite a few times with people, and sometimes people see it and they're shocked and they change immediately. Others need a little work, and then there are some that are just totally defensive, and they can't believe people said that.
mhm. Yeah, that's right. But not everybody can be helped, right? That's a choice they get to make. But now it's an informed choice.
Right.
They can let go of their own perception of themselves, uh, and leave room for the possibility that the way other people see them has some truth, or they can slam the door shut on that. I often tell people I was coaching somebody today, a real high performing executive coming up the ranks on one of the companies that I work for. And I say, you know, self awareness and situational awareness is absolutely key, right?
Hmm.
To develop your leadership capabilities and to become a more effective communicator with people. Because if you can't see others through the lens through which they see you, it's hard to shape your message in a way that will be received by those other people.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. What I would do with people is say, okay, these are people's perceptions of you. Uh, this is a no fault situation here. Uh, your job as a manager, as a leader, is to manage perceptions. So, what do you think you're doing that makes them perceive you in this way? And what can you do differently? Or how do you want to be perceived? And what can you do differently to be perceived in the way you want to be perceived?
That's good.
I think you could also go back to a point Mike made earlier in that there's rewards. That instead of debating whether these are accurate or not, it's their perception that they hold as a reality. And what do you gain by making adjustments, making some change? How will you benefit from this? We already know from their perspective how they'll benefit because they won't feel that way. They won't see you that way. But what does this do for you to make these changes? And try to turn it into a positive.
Right.
Yeah,
That
and
people do need to hear what's in it for me. What am I
they
going to
do.
get from this? Yeah.
Which is why it's easy within a certain setting. You know, you talked about in the workplace. So if you have ambition to advance your career, right, that's usually the source of motivation to at least be open to the possibility of even taking a 360. Because some people resist even taking one if they have a choice not to.
Sure.
You know, if I can bounce out of the career setting for a moment, I was thinking even in a relationship, whether it's a marriage or just a close friend, that those should be safe places to communicate. And there's times where you may need to say, you know, what you did or what you said made me uncomfortable. And you're doing that with some frequency. And I really would like to see that to stop. And rather than getting defensive, we should welcome the honest communication and say, you know, apologize if it's appropriate and make changes where necessary to the degree necessary. It can happen in any dynamic relationship, be it work or outside of work, uh, where that has to happen.
I
That's true.
agree completely. And the lens for me is the resistance that people feel is because all of their focus and energy is on changing the other person,
Hmm.
which is totally outside of their control. And so you can expend immense amounts of time and energy banging your head against that wall. So my goal is to try to shift and say, well, what if, you know, you changed, right? Because you are in control of that. Your motivation for change is to improve the relationship. And what you're discounting is that when you change yourself, you are influencing change in others indirectly,
Hmm.
which
Right.
is way more powerful and much more likely to succeed,
More lasting.
for sure.
True. So you should first remove the log from your own eye before you attempt to remove the speck from your
Right.
brother's eye.
Amen.
Right, John?
Well, well said.
Yes.
I
Well,
think I've heard that somewhere.
I didn't say that, but well, and even in modern books that talk about dealing with conflict, it's about, well, look at yourself first.
Mhm.
What's your influence on this situation? And uh, what are you doing and saying could be continuing this situation?
It kind of goes back to this idea of choosing a realistic goal. It's unrealistic to think that you're going to change someone else. So find it, you know, let that one go and try to
Hmm.
find a more realistic goal.
That's true. All right, time to wrap up. So if you each want to say something to summarize this topic, that would be good. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, I think, if I may, with change, there is an element of hope. People who are not hope filled are more inclined to uh, try to maintain a static sort of existence. But people who are filled with hope and are hopeful for good things to come tend to embrace the possibilities of change. And because change is going to happen regardless, we know that.
Hmm.
So I guess what I would encourage people with is, if you find you're faced with a change that you're beginning to resist for whatever reason, consider the outcomes of that change and what possibilities may exist on the other side of that change. and explore the worthiness of those outcomes. And you can hope for the best outcomes then as you accept the change and face it. I don't know if that made sense.
It does. Sounds good, John.
It does. And I'm going to channel my friend John Bailey. I think faith is something we haven't mentioned today. And I think having faith in a higher power that wants what's best for you is
Amen.
a powerful source of inspiration for me.
I
Yes.
agree. I would add, as we close this out, that once we get the willingness to change, that it's important to have a vision, which goes with what you're saying too, John. What do I really want? What do I want to come of this situation? We have to change the focus of our attention from what's wrong to what it is that we truly want. What will be right? And then to behave as if we're already there. To how would I act if I was already there? Well, start doing that now. Not someday I'm going to do this. No, do it now and play the role right now. And then that's really moving beyond hope to, I don't have to hope to be a better person. I'm going to start being a better person right this minute. I'm going to do it by whatever, giving more praise to people and less criticism, by taking better care of my body, whatever it might be. The vision to me is very important. And I'm sure you have some biblical things to say about that one, John.
Well, what is it? The old men will have visions and the young men will dream dreams, or I forget if I got it reversed there, but I was telling my wife yesterday, I said, we need dreams. We need to dream. And I said, the older I get, it's like I do less dreaming, and I don't want to do that. Dreams can become realities. That's, I always tell people, I've used it in funerals and weddings, that there remain three: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest is love. And why? Because faith will not be needed once all has been received. Hope will become a reality, but love will go on forever and ever. It doesn't just. And when we have dreams, it takes me into that eternal aspect of the love. And that's where the hope carries me until it's fulfilled.
All right.
That's a mic drop moment. That was good.
Very good, John. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, John.
Thank you
This
both.
has been our fifth podcast. We are Michael A. Limauro, John Bailey, and William Frank Diedrich, the authors of The Practice of Letting Go. You can find our book, which is a workbook, on Amazon.com, The Practice of Letting Go. And we also have a website called thepracticeoflettinggo.com, where our book is available there. So check us out, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thank you all.